Hello everyone, and welcome to my General Hospital Today channel. Laura had been chasing fragments of a mystery for weeks, a puzzle that refused to fit together no matter how hard she tried. Every lead seemed to end in a dead end, every whispered clue dissolved into shadows just when she thought she was close. And yet, something about C had always felt personal, as if the person behind the enigmatic lettered alias was not just a faceless player in a game, but someone who understood her, knew her habits, and watched her every move. The first time she encountered C's subtle manipulations, she brushed them off as coincidence or clever planning, but patterns had a way of emerging, and patterns were never wrong. It had started with a seemingly innocent message slipped under her office door, typed in that distinct, precise font that made her spine tingle every time. The answers you seek are closer than you think. At first, she laughed nervously, thinking it was a prank or one of her colleagues testing her nerves. But then the messages became more targeted, more precise, referencing conversations she'd had only behind closed doors, observations she hadn't shared with a soul. It was impossible. Someone had to be watching her, tracking her movements, anticipating her every step. And yet, no one had ever been caught, no one had ever left a trace. Until today. Today, she had a lead, an actual thread to follow. She had intercepted a digital footprint, a barely noticeable flicker in a log file, a misrouted email, a server ping that shouldn't have existed. It pointed to a location she knew all too well, the abandoned warehouse on the edge of town, a place whispered about in local rumors as a hub for clandestine meetings and dangerous dealings. Laura's heart raced as she approached, her footsteps echoing against the cracked concrete floor. The air smelled of rust, old paper, and something more pungent she couldn't quite place. She moved cautiously, scanning shadows, her hand hovering over the small weapon she carried but hoping she wouldn't need it. And then she saw it, a figure leaning against the far wall, obscured by darkness, the only light coming from a single flickering bulb overhead. "See," she whispered under her breath, as if saying the name aloud would make it real. The figure turned slowly, and Laura froze. It wasn't the masked, distant, untouchable stranger she had imagined. It was someone she knew, someone whose face she had trusted, someone whose betrayal cut deeper than any stranger ever could. "I wondered when you'd figure it out," the figure said, voice calm, almost amused, as though the revelation was something inevitable. Laura's mind raced, trying to reconcile the pieces. The voice, the gestures, the subtle hints she had ignored, they all clicked into place in a terrifyingly clear pattern. It was Mason, someone she had shared confidences with, someone who had always been just out of reach but close enough to feel like family. "Why?" she managed to choke out, her voice a mixture of anger, hurt, and disbelief. "Why me? Why all of this?" Mason's eyes glinted in the dim light, a mix of triumph and something Laura couldn't quite read. "Because you were the only one who could see the truth. You always notice the little things. You always dig deeper. I needed someone like that to find the cracks, to see what others couldn't. And you did. You always do." Laura felt the ground shift beneath her. Everything she thought she knew about loyalty, about friendship, about trust, it was unraveling before her eyes. She wanted to scream, to accuse, to demand answers, but her mind was spinning too fast. Memories she had shared, moments she had cherished, interactions she had thought were innocent, all of it was now tinged with manipulation and deception. "All those messages," she whispered, her throat tight, "the warnings, the clues, it was you?" Mason nodded slowly, a faint, almost imperceptible smile playing on his lips. "Every single one. I had to guide you, Laura, because the world you're stepping into isn't kind. You needed to be prepared, and preparation requires persuasion." Laura's chest heaved, the weight of realization pressing down on her. She had been dancing to Mason's tune all this time, unaware that the music was composed by someone she had trusted. And yet, beneath the layers of betrayal, there was a flicker of something else, a question she couldn't ignore. If Mason had orchestrated all of this, if every clue, every misdirection had been his doing, then why reveal himself now? What was his endgame? "I wanted you to know the truth before it was too late," Mason said, stepping closer, his presence both menacing and familiar. Because the next move you make, it will define everything. Laura took a step back, her mind racing through possibilities. Escape, confrontation, negotiation, each seemed fraught with danger, and yet she couldn't let fear dictate her choices. Not now. Not when the stakes were higher than ever. And if I refuse? She asked, trying to keep her voice steady, trying to mask the trembling that threatened to betray her. Mason's smile widened, but it wasn't warm. It was calculated, precise, predatory. Refusal isn't really an option. You already started down this path the moment you questioned me, the moment you sought the truth. There's no turning back. But you can control how you walk it. That is, the gift I'm giving you. Laura's head spun. The revelation of C's identity was not just a shock, it was a turning point. She had uncovered the puppet master, but she also realized that knowledge alone wasn't power. True power lay in how she responded, in how she reclaimed agency in a game that Mason had been controlling for so long. And as she stared into Mason's eyes, searching for any hint of the friend she once knew, she made a decision: she would not be a pawn. She would not be a victim. She would play, but on her terms, and the consequences of her next move would ripple far beyond the walls of the abandoned warehouse. And with that resolve hardening in her chest, Laura took a deep breath, squared her shoulders, and prepared to confront the labyrinth of lies, deceit, and secrets that Mason, C, had woven around her life. For the first time, she wasn't just chasing the truth. She was ready to wield it. Laura's mind was a whirlwind. The truth had hit her like a lightning strike, leaving her simultaneously enraged and paralyzed. Mason, the person she had trusted implicitly, the one she had confided in during moments of vulnerability, was the very architect of her torment. The very thought of all those messages, the clues she had painstakingly followed, being orchestrated by him made her stomach twist with a mixture of betrayal and disbelief. She forced herself to inhale slowly, trying to calm the storm inside her. She needed clarity. Emotion would be her enemy now, clouding judgment when precision was essential. Mason stepped closer, his movements deliberate, calculated, almost theatrical. The flickering bulb above them cast shifting shadows that danced across his face, turning his familiar features into something foreign, sinister. "Laura," he began, his voice soft but edged with an intensity that made her flinch, "I know you hate me right now. I know you feel betrayed. But you have to understand, everything I did, everything I orchestrated, was because of you." Laura's jaw tightened. "Because of me? Or because it served your twisted agenda?" Her voice cracked, betraying the undercurrent of fear she refused to show. Mason's eyes darkened, the flicker of amusement disappearing, replaced by a chilling resolve. "Yes, it served my agenda, but it was also necessary. You see, you have a mind that notices the unnoticed, that reads between the lines in a way most people can't. That kind of intuition isn't common, Laura. It's rare. I needed someone like you to uncover what others couldn't, to see the fractures in the system before it collapsed. And you did it flawlessly." Laura's mind reeled. He framed his betrayal as admiration, as necessity. It was infuriating. "So, all this time, you were using me. Every hint, every warning, every breadcrumb you left, it wasn't a test or a game. It was manipulation. Plain and simple." Mason shrugged, almost casually, as if the enormity of his deception didn't matter. Manipulation? Perhaps. But it was a guided path. A path that brought you to the truth that you were meant to face. You've been searching for answers your entire life, Laura, but answers are rarely free. They cost something, sometimes everything. Her chest tightened. Everything he said sounded eerily logical, as if he were weaving a spell that tried to justify every betrayal, every lie, every secret kept from her. And yet, deep down, she knew she couldn't trust him. Not now. Not ever. Her mind raced for a strategy. If Mason was so confident in his control, maybe she could turn that overconfidence against him. "I'm done being your pawn," she said, voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through her veins. "You thought you could manipulate me, lead me through your little game, and I'd walk away grateful? I'm not playing that role anymore. Mason's lips curled into a faint, knowing smile. Ah, but you already are, Laura. You've always been in this game. The question is whether you'll embrace it willingly, or fight blindly and falter. She felt a shiver run down her spine. He had a way of twisting perception, of making her question her own agency. But she refused to let him. Not when she was finally seeing through the veil of deception. She had to act strategically, carefully. Her gaze swept the warehouse, searching for anything that could give her leverage, a hidden weapon, a means of escape, a clue he had overlooked. Mason, reading her every micro-expression, seemed to anticipate the thought. Searching for a weapon won't help, he said softly, almost tauntingly. Everything you need to confront me is right here, he tapped lightly against his temple. The mind is the most powerful tool. And you, Laura, have proven you know how to use yours. Laura froze for a moment, realizing the depth of his game. He hadn't just manipulated her actions, he had been studying her, learning her psychology, predicting her moves. Every step she had taken, he had already planned for. And yet, there was a slight miscalculation, an imperfection in his meticulous control. A hesitation when he spoke, a flicker in his eyes when he mentioned her intuition. That, she realized, was her leverage. You think you're untouchable, don't you? She said, voice rising with controlled fury. You've spent weeks crafting this illusion of control, guiding me, manipulating me, and now you reveal yourself as some kind of mastermind, expecting me to, what? Admire you for it? Mason's eyes gleamed with a mix of respect and challenge. Not admiration. Recognition. Understanding. You're different from the others, Laura. You see too much, think too much, and that makes you dangerous. Laura's mind raced. Dangerous. That word was a warning, but also a clue. He feared her potential. And if he feared her potential, she could exploit it. She took a deep breath, her heartbeat echoing in her ears. You underestimated me, Mason. You underestimated how far I'm willing to go to reclaim control of my life. A flicker of surprise crossed his face, subtle, almost imperceptible, but it was there. Laura seized the moment. She advanced, keeping her steps deliberate, measured, closing the gap between them. Mason didn't move, didn't retreat. He seemed almost intrigued. You've hidden behind your intellect, your strategy, your games, she continued, thinking no one can outmaneuver you. But you forgot one thing, emotions. Desperation. Loyalty. Those are unpredictable. And they can topple even the most meticulous plan. Mason chuckled softly, a low, almost approving sound. You speak with conviction, Laura. It's admirable. But do you really think your emotions give you the upper hand? You've always been guided by them, whether you admit it or not. And yet, here you are, confronting me, guided partly by reason, partly by raw emotion. A volatile combination. Laura ignored his praise, focusing instead on the objective, survival and revelation. She needed to extract the truth, fully understand his motives, and expose him before he could manipulate her further. Tell me everything, Mason. No more games. No more half-truths. Who else is involved? What's your ultimate goal? And why me? Mason leaned back slightly, a thoughtful expression crossing his face. You've earned the full story, he said, finally. But be warned, once you know, nothing will ever be the same. You'll see the world, and yourself, differently. And there's no going back. Laura braced herself. She had prepared for shock, betrayal, danger, but she was ready. I can handle it. I have to. Mason's gaze softened, almost imperceptibly, as if a fragment of the friend she once knew flickered through. Very well, he began, his voice dropping into a narrative cadence, weaving the story with precision. Years ago, before you entered my world, before the paths we now walk collided, I discovered a network, a covert group operating in the shadows, influencing events, shaping outcomes in ways most people could never perceive. They are ruthless, intelligent, and invisible to the untrained eye. I infiltrated them, learned their rules, their methods, their weaknesses. But I quickly realized one thing: infiltration alone isn't enough. To truly dismantle their influence, I needed someone who could perceive patterns I couldn't. Someone intuitive, insightful, and unyielding. That person was you, Laura. Her mind reeled at the revelation. It was a dangerous truth, yes, but it reframed everything. Mason hadn't merely acted out of malice, he had a purpose, albeit a morally ambiguous one. And she had been central to it, chosen for reasons beyond personal connection. But why all the deception? She asked, voice trembling. Why hide it behind threats and manipulation? Why risk our relationship? Mason's eyes darkened again, regret mingling with resolve. Because I had to ensure your survival. The network we're talking about doesn't tolerate sentimentality. They are predators, and anyone showing weakness gets destroyed. I couldn't risk you knowing the truth too soon, because curiosity alone would have put you in danger. I had to guide you, manipulate you, prepare you without alerting them, or even yourself, to the danger lurking at every corner. Laura's chest tightened. The pieces were falling into place, but the enormity of it left her dizzy. She felt anger, fear, and a reluctant understanding. Mason's methods were extreme, but the stakes were higher than she had realized. And the messages? She pressed. The clues, the warnings? All part of the preparation, Mason said simply. Every cryptic note, every subtle hint, every shadowy figure, it was all meant to awaken your senses, train you to think like they do, to anticipate threats. It was a trial by fire, Laura. And you passed. Laura swallowed hard. Passed. It felt like an insult and a recognition simultaneously. She had been a tool, yes, but she had also been tested, sharpened, and prepared for something far greater than she had imagined. And now? She asked, voice barely above a whisper. Now what? Mason's gaze hardened, determination flashing. Now we strike. Together, or apart, but make no mistake, the network knows of your existence. They are already watching. Time is short. Every move counts. And you are no longer a pawn. You are a player. A key player. Whether you accept that role is up to you. Laura's mind whirled. Fear, anger, adrenaline, and a fierce sense of purpose collided inside her. She had spent weeks chasing shadows, deciphering clues, and confronting lies. Now she faced a choice that would define her destiny. Step into the dangerous game fully aware, wielding knowledge as a weapon, or retreat, hide, and surrender her agency forever. She clenched her fists, feeling the weight of responsibility settle on her shoulders. Mason, friend, betrayer, strategist, he was all of those things. But he was also human, flawed, and, crucially, fallible. I'll play, she said finally, voice strong, unwavering. But on my terms. And if you step out of line, Mason, I won't hesitate. Mason studied her, a slow, approving smile spreading across his face. I wouldn't expect anything less, he said softly. The warehouse seemed to exhale around them, the flickering light steadying for the first time. Laura realized the game was no longer about discovery, it was about strategy, survival, and the delicate dance of power, trust, and betrayal. She was ready. For the first time, she wasn't just chasing the truth. She was embracing it, wielding it, and preparing for the storm that was about to come. Laura took a cautious step forward, her eyes never leaving Mason's. The air between them seemed to thrum with unspoken words, with the weight of past betrayals and the anticipation of future conflicts. Every instinct screamed at her to flee, but curiosity and determination anchored her in place. You've shown me the truth, she said, her voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through her veins. But now I need to know, who else knows? How deep does this go? Mason's expression darkened, a flicker of unease passing through his normally controlled demeanor. Deeper than you can imagine. There are people watching, listening. Every move you make will be noted. Every decision scrutinized. That's why you need to trust your instincts above all else. And above all, trust yourself. Laura nodded slowly, feeling the weight of his words. Trust herself. It was simple advice, yet profound. In the labyrinth of lies, deception, and manipulation, her only constant would be her own judgment. She clenched her fists, determination blazing in her chest. Then we move forward, she said firmly. No hesitation, no distractions. I'm ready. Mason studied her for a long moment, then nodded. Good. The real game begins now, Laura. And this time, you decide how it ends. The warehouse seemed to grow darker, shadows stretching long across the cracked floor, as if the world itself were holding its breath, waiting for the storm they were about to unleash.